Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, for the opportunity to speak today. We appreciate the important work that you are doing on this committee, and we know you have difficult decisions to make. My name is Joe Schmees, close on the name, and I'm the Executive Director of the Indiana Association of Soil and Water Conservation Districts. We represent your 92 soil and water conservation districts at the state level. I know my time is short today, so I will cut to the chase. We're here on behalf of the Soil and Water Conservation Districts of Indiana to request that the committee increase the Clean Water Indiana General Fund appropriation on page 40 of the current bill from $1 million to $15.2 million. We are not naive, and we understand the immensity of our ask. However, let me demonstrate the need. As the Lieutenant Governor mentioned in her testimony last week, agriculture is big business in Indiana. Soil and water conservation districts are on the front line of protecting that business, working with farmers and other private landowners to sustain some of Indiana's most valuable assets, our soil and water. Soil and water conservation districts are established in the state statute, and one is located in every single county in Indiana. We're made up of 460 supervisors statewide who are elected state officials that mostly volunteer their time. While led by state officials, district employees are considered county employees, which is unique and affords them that local trust, but it complicates funding availability. To put our district staff in comparison to state agencies, we have 202 staff statewide. IDEM currently has just under 800 employees. In the last budget cycle, IDEM received well over $100 million from general and dedicated funds, as did DNR, and that doesn't include federal funding that they receive. The Indiana State Department of Agriculture received only $8.3 million. I'll repeat, agriculture is big business in Indiana. Of that $8.3 million, roughly $3.9 million is designated as Clean Water Indiana, and ISDA shares that with districts. Clean Water Indiana is made up of $1 million from the general fund and $2.9 million dedicated from the cigarette tax fund. The cigarette tax fund declines as smoking is curtailed, and while an increase in the tax would provide more funding in the short term, sin taxes are designed to curb behavior and it will continue to decline. In terms of Clean Water Indiana, only a guaranteed $10,000 is available to soil and water conservation districts annually, and that's if they can match it dollar for dollar in local funding. They can also apply in competitive grant process to receive a portion of that $1 million annually. However, the demand is routinely at least double what is available. While conservation grant funding is needed, our districts struggle to maintain staffing levels and expertise as counties continue to cut their local budgets. A few years ago, we worked to change Clean Water Indiana requirements to allow for the inclusion of private local foundation funding as match, as one county couldn't even get the local support to match that $10,000. Just this year, a county had their local budget slashed, needing to release their 2 full-time technical staff. Another county asked me if they could become a 501c3 because as a state organization, they are ineligible for most of the funding sources. Despite these challenges, last year your soil and water conservation districts leveraged $87.6 million federal dollars in Indiana, $3.1 million state dollars, and $6.7 million local dollars. Now you may look at those numbers and say, we have adequate funding in Indiana. Conservation work starts with one-on-one technical assistance with each farmer. Every farm is different, and our staff work with them to determine the best plan for their land, for their business, while improving the resource. When you look at statewide efforts to improve water quality, like our state nutrient reduction strategy or our domestic action plan to address Lake Erie, the implementation strategies begin with our local soil and water conservation districts and that one-on-one technical assistance. How can we conduct that technical assistance without adequate staffing? Districts are in dire need of more state support to continue to make Indiana a nationwide leader in conservation. My last request today is that one of you on the committee consider sponsoring an amendment to the current bill to increase funding for Indiana's soil and water conservation districts. The future of our Hoosier natural resources and agricultural businesses depend on it. Now, I'd be remiss to say that we would like to thank Representative Karakoff for his amendment in this very room in 2015 that doubled the Clean Water Indiana line, and Chairman Brown for restoring the $30,000 cut from that same line in 2017, which is there's a proposed $30,000 cut of the existing line item. We do appreciate your support this far at conservation in Indiana, but we hope that you can help us take it to the next level. We have a one-page summary of our request for you that we'll hand out here, as well as an Indiana Prairie Farmer magazine article that gives an example of the farm community support. I thank you for your time and consideration in this.
Great. Questions for Joe? Dave? Representative Heine?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Have you ever, we have 92 counties. Every county has a soil and water conservation district. We have 32 watersheds, state of Indiana. Have you ever thought about changing our model and doing this by watershed? And that way, like in my count, or in my area, we have the Maumee River watershed. There's 6 counties that flow into that. We could, it just seems to me if we reorganized, we could do a much better job, more efficient job with the dollars that we have currently.
That's definitely an interesting question, and that's definitely not a new concept.
I know it's not new. That's why I'm asking why hadn't we acted on that?
I think one of the big issues, to give you some background, I worked in watershed planning and restoration for the last 7.5 years before this position and managed one of the state grant programs at IDEM. And we always push to work across watershed boundaries because those are how the resources are impacted in those river basins. I guess the short answer is it's difficult to coordinate local politics across those watersheds.
I found that out.
I know that can be surprising. And I think that when we used to talk to watershed planners about, the partners that they need to bring in, when you start listing off those partnerships across that watershed, several of them fit that watershed model, but lots of them are tied up in that county government model. So that's, I guess, my answer to that.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, appreciate your time. Seeing none, appreciate your time.
Thank you for your time.